So allow me to introduce you to the topic, from road warriors to intern, how to manage different personas. Please join me in welcoming our three amazing speakers, Khadeeja Islam, Head of Global Mobility at Aggreko, Magdalena Jennings, Global Mobility Business Partner at Equinix, and Reid, Director of Client Services at Altair Global. And please join me in welcoming once again Beverly King to the stage.
Wow, what a day. Very excited for this conversation. So thanks so much, Joy, for the introduction. Obviously, many of you have seen me from earlier on this morning, but those who weren't here this morning, I'm VP of Client Partnerships for AltoVita. Joined just a few months ago, have over 20 years of experience across HR, reward global mobility, and relocation service management. So yeah, long history, and also lived and worked overseas myself in Germany and France. So really understand what is involved when you're relocating different people. I've lived and breathed that myself. Maybe we start with a couple of intros for the lovely panel I have with me. So Khadeeja, would you like to give us a few words?
So I'm Khadeeja Islam. I'm the head of global mobility at Aggreko. I've been in mobility for around 18 years, and apart from, I think, 6 weeks, it's all been in-house. 6 weeks was at a Big Four. Clearly I didn't like it, and I went back in-house.
So I'm Magdalena. I'm at Equinix. I have been with Equinix for a couple of years. I have a very similar to Khadeeja. Started off in the Big Four, quickly realised that tax 24/7 wasn't quite the thing for me, so I moved into an in-house role. I do love a bit of tax, but really my passion is, talent mobility. So looking forward to the panel today.
I don't like tax at all. So, I'm Lisa Reid. I'm Client Services Director at Altair. I've been in the industry as well, same, 20 years. Started off as would you believe it, a field consultant. So I was the person that would meet you at the airport and throw you into the back of the car and say, come on, let's go and find you housing, let's go and find you a school, let's go look at your temp housing. And I then worked in DSP for a few years, in Singapore again, and then moved into supply chain, and now I'm in client services. So feel really blessed that I've worked across a few different departments within the industry. So that's me.
So in our discussions a couple of weeks ago, we identified that across the whole group of us, we have 80 years of experience in industry, which is quite significant, frightening really, but also amazing. So very blessed to be with these amazing ladies today. So a few questions, and really the topic is around the different personas that we might be supporting, whether it's business travel, whether it's relocation. Although we're all here, or all of this panel here have lived day by day in the relocation space, I think a lot of this can translate into the business travel space also. But what do we do? What do we do? How do we understand the different personas? So the first question for the panel, we talked earlier in the day today about DEI. Diversity, equity and inclusion. This may, of course, cover a diversity of generations. So how does experience as well as generational diversity impact the needs for the employee? And I'd like to ask Magdalena first for your perspectives, especially when it comes to Equinix, and you have a quite specific slogan that's important within the company.
We do. So we have quite a unique culture at Equinix, really, and we call it the magic of Equinix. We actually do. And as part of that, we have a slogan that each employee and each manager really lives by, and it's I'm safe, I belong, and I matter. And the reason for this is that we have our own diversity, inclusion and belonging initiatives, and we very much focus on this. And they are part of how we do mobility, how we manage our talent. And I think, although it being generational and based on experience, a kind of approach to accommodation and mobility in general is a shared experience. So it's an employee-led experience, and that's how we like to manage mobility at Equinix.
Amazing. And Khadeeja, what can you tell us about different levels of confidence, and how does that translate within Aggreko?
So for us, I would say that our first-time movers are interns, so to speak. They require a lot more hand-holding. They don't feel as knowledgeable without speaking and finding out as much detail as maybe our kind of serial road warriors, as we're calling them. Those who are road warriors, I think, go rogue quite a bit compared to those who are moving for the first time. I was telling Beverly, actually, we had a recent example where one of our senior legal managers moved over to Dubai for the first time, and he contacted one of my colleagues in the middle of the night because he didn't know where to go and buy milk. So, bless him. But we soon realised that actually even somebody who's gone on holiday to Dubai many times doesn't feel as confident if they're actually physically relocating without the right support.
It's really interesting, especially when we think that the younger generation is maybe just relying on technology and not having that kind of first-hand customer support. So that's really interesting. And Lisa, how about you and some of the conversations you've been having internally within Altair with your clients?
And I recently sat down with a young person that were just starting off in their career, and they were moving into Amsterdam, and asked him about his relocation experience and what support had he been offered. And he'd been given a lump sum and told to get on with it. And I was surprised when he said to me it wasn't what he expected, and it didn't really work for him. And I said to him, I thought you'd be quite happy with an app and some money in your pocket to get out there and do it on your own. He said no. He said he was actually a Dutch national. He'd lived in that location. He'd gone to school and left when he was 12 and now was coming back into work. And he said absolutely not. He said I cannot even begin to wonder how somebody, who didn't have that knowledge of the location, how they would have coped. I said, so how's it worked out for you? And he subsequently left that company, has stayed in Amsterdam and has moved on. So I think it goes back to their worth, the value as well of not only wanting support when they're moving, which I think we've all moved away from. They're young, they know what they're doing, just throw them an app and a bit of money, they're going to get on with it. And I think it's shifting. And that value, we all know that they want to feel valued and feel part of something, and he definitely didn't, and that's why he left the company and moved on.
Loss of talent. So it's a pity for the company, especially when they've invested.
Exactly.
So Lisa, staying with you, do you think that you can apply technology to effectively support the varying needs of both types of traveller? So whether that's the seasoned traveller, the seasoned road warrior, or the professional intern. And how does the human touch complement the different scenarios? And I know this is something that you've been talking about within your day-to-day as well and across.
Yeah, I think there's a place for technology. I mean, I've, over the years, seen, we were just talking about cultural training in the last session we looked at. That was a massive trend that just disappeared. Companies, when they cut costs, moved away from cultural training, and that all of a sudden it's coming back in. So you kind of see swings and roundabouts, and I do think technology plays a part, but I don't think we'll ever shift away from having that person there on the end of the phone, or who can walk somebody through that relocation. So I definitely think we've got to be careful there that we don't move too far towards the technology and taking away that human touch. So customer-centric was thrown around a lot, where clients were definitely focused on customer experience, and they still very much are, but they're now also looking at diversity, the makeup of a family. So, for instance, I'd recently spoken to a client who were thinking about their policy and how does that look for somebody who's a single parent? Or how does that look for somebody who's got to move with a support dog? So there's definitely more elements being pulled into more considerations.
Everyone loves a dog, right?
More considerations coming into play now. But I do think technology is there to stay. And I think, especially within companies and how they want to join everything up and have this ecosystem where we can all talk to each other, that's great. But I still think we're going to need
bringing the two together.
Yeah.
And Magdalena, what's your view here?
Very similar to Lisa, actually. So from a technology point of view, I think this is the bit that enhances the operational excellence, and each mobility program, it's kind of one of the key deliverables we aim for. So it almost becomes a non-negotiable in terms of having a solid tech solution to enhance that experience. But from a kind of even from an accommodation provision point of view, we do see any of our mobility products as a retention tool, as a talent development product, and having the ability to book or to seamlessly experience that whole process in security and accommodation, for example, becomes part of that solutioning around retention. So technology enables this, but the human touch piece absolutely remains, because again, people have unique needs, and they don't want to feel exposed by asking those additional questions. Right. And they can only happen when you're actually talking to a human being. Technology can't, well, not yet, not quite there yet.
Technology, you're ticking boxes.
Exactly that.
And Khadeeja, what's your view?
So from my perspective, I think I completely agree with the ladies here. I echo everything that they've said. Technology is definitely the enabler, but you definitely need the personal touch, and especially when you're moving to new locations or you're moving families, etc., everyone has their own varying needs, and you need to speak to somebody who can explain how that fits in. You can't kind of put a square peg into a round hole. You need it to fit well for the employee, and the only way that they'll know whether it actually fits is either by doing a look-see in certain locations, or by actually speaking to somebody at the end of the phone to really explain to them what their real needs are, because when you look at a system, it all looks too easy, but actually sometimes it doesn't work, and we know that.
And then there's things like considerations around communication style, right, as well. So things like, you're phoning somebody, or you're emailing, or just having a WhatsApp conversation with somebody as well. So having those facilities. How about budget differentials? So for each of the different groups, do you find that the budget differentials match expectations? And how do you educate on this within your organisation, specifically focused on accommodation, of course? Magdalena, for you first of all.
Yes, absolutely. So I suppose the starting point around budgets is that your offering is only as good as the budgets that your external provider is giving you. So what I mean by that is that you need that true partnership, that relationship with them, so they know exactly what would work in the context of company culture, of the policies that are in place. So it's almost like a starting, kind of sets you up for success. Mm-hmm. From a budget perspective, I think the danger is always that kind of the more seasoned kind of warrior, they would try to really kind of negotiate or prefer to take the money, or they know how this works and say, well, I was given an initial budget and I only spend that much, can you give me the cash for the rest? Whereas kind of someone who's a bit younger, they will be entirely reliant on what the mobility program, the mobility consultant offers on the other side of the phone. So the margin for error is much bigger in a way.
Yeah. It was really interesting when we were discussing this before. I was kind of expecting it to go the other way around. So very interesting. Lisa, how do you find sort of within, I guess, within Altair and with your clients, what are you finding in terms of, I guess, differences in family sizes and the expectations? Do they match?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the budget, it's a tough one, because we get that clients have to manage that. But if you relate it back to interns, I know I was just speaking to a friend, Cheryl, earlier, and they've been looking, lots of clients have been coming and want to look at their intern programs. We've had the same from our clients, because they're suddenly going, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? Well, because you're really not thinking about what they really need. So you're trying to make this budget fit into something that it just can't do. And so lots of discussions around, well, why are you not just putting them into temporary housing? It's going to be easier. It's going to be safer. They're going to have the security. They're going to be up and running far quicker than they would ever be if they're going to have to do this on their own with a load of cash. So I think that's one area that clients really need. It's a difficult balance, though, because you've got to work that budget. But I mean, I went to Malaysia with a 40-foot container, 2 kids, and a tumble dryer. in my 40-foot container. If I was to do it again, but then this is me 25 years on, I would pick up my cases, take the cash and get on a flight with my husband, and I'd do it all myself. But then I've had the knowledge
and you work in the
of what
industry.
came before, and I've had the experience, and so
you've got the contacts.
Yeah, I definitely think we're moving back to that unique setup of what that person and their family may need when they're thinking about moving, rather than just same for everybody, get on with it kind of approach. But that's difficult to manage.
You used the phrase customer life centricity.
Yes.
I think that's very, very important. And Khadeeja, what about within Aggreko and kind of your experience of the budgets that are being set? Are they realistic?
So it depends, actually. So we have some senior exec colleagues, etc., who use the housing allowance as compensation, as opposed to the purpose of it being housing. So for them, no budget is enough. But for what we're finding is for the first-time interns, so to speak, they tend to kind of stretch their budget. They tend to go over. They're even willing to pay extra because they're going for the experience. They're not necessarily going there to kind of make money or save money. So for them, they want the best that they can possibly get within that budget. And going back to Mag's point, we have to be set up for success because of our data that we receive. At times when we don't receive the correct data, it does cause conflict because the colleagues, they feel that they're going to have to ask for more money and they're going to be considered as being difficult, etc. So we do have to kind of test the market from time to time, but yeah, I think it is different.
It's tricky. So it's a great segue to remind everyone about our Alto 360 launch today. There are still demos available over drinks, so do go and see the product team over drinks. I just wanted to remind, for those who didn't get to see it earlier, it is very impressive. And I think just on this topic, it is very interesting that you can get some of those insights from the data specific for your program. So in the case that the seasoned road warrior might spend potentially a shorter time in their temporary accommodation because they're going on to the permanent accommodation. However, the intern might be longer because they're not necessarily going to be there long enough to secure a permanent accommodation. How do you manage, for each of your different client groups, the amenities that are required to enable a work-life balance as well as productivity alongside costs? What do you think are the best strategies for making the longer stays feel more like home? So, Khadeeja, I'll go to you first.
So I think we have to look at the basics first, which is making sure that the safety and security of the employee is always, they're paramount. And then for us personally, we kind of leave that conversation between the employee and the relocation provider, etc., so that they can tell them specifics to what they're looking for. Some people, if they're going with families, they'd want to be near a school. If they're going by themselves, they might want to have a gym facilities, etc., available, or if they're near a sports place. But we leave it. We don't try to dictate it. But we want to set the boundaries first to make sure that it is something that is safe and secure for the individual.
Understood. Lisa, you're nodding. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree that comes first, whether you're an intern or you're a family. You want to make sure that they're safe and secure. Hybrid working, so
Exactly.
Working from the office, working from your temporary accommodation, making sure that you've got the space to do that and the internet works is a biggie.
Yeah.
Socialising, if you're just coming into that location and you're new, you want to be close to the office, you want to be in a place where you can socialise easily. Yes, the gym and things like that, but meeting new people as well, I think, is a consideration.
Yeah.
Especially for that group of people.
And finally, Magdalena, what are your thoughts?
I would completely agree with the points made by the other two ladies, but I think from our side, kind of quite a key piece is around that home-to-home transition. So for interns, they want to kind of dive in, they want to experience the new surroundings, but they still want to feel that their well-being is not compromised as a result of this. So we're seeing, so at Equinix, we have developed a number of rotational programs that are very short. They're almost / business travel, but with a purpose, much more purpose than you normally have. But it's kind of a managed business travel experience. And one of the key things they ask for is, where is the gym? How can this is going to be really intense 2 weeks. How do I balance my workload with my well-being? And that's not something you typically hear from a seasoned warrior.
Yes.
I feel perhaps culturally kind of that mobility experience has changed, and people are very clear in terms of the choices they want to have to enable that well-being.
Amazing. So on that topic then, I guess just kind of on what you thought would be one view, do you see any overlap in terms of the needs or preferences for both types of group? Because I think there is some overlap. Lisa, maybe to you first this time.
I think being in a safe environment, being able to settle quickly, hit the ground running, whether you're seasoned or you're an intern, you want to do that. If you've got family, making sure your family are settled, being valued, that's a big one.
I know that's something we talked about as well.
It's huge, I think, for either. They want to feel that they're making the move for the right reasons, that they're going to be, like I said, up and running very quickly, and that, it's a success. Both are looking for it to be successful, and so is the company that's moving those people.
Anything you want to add, Khadeeja?
Sorry, I was just going to add on to Lisa's point is the hit the ground running.
Yeah.
We receive a lot of noise when they're not able to hit the ground running. The expectation from the business is that somebody will be able to start the next day. They don't want something to have gone wrong with the accommodation or any of that sort of stuff, because it takes them away from doing their work, which is the primary reason of them being there. So I think that is equally as important. It's always missed at times, I think, because we just think it's going to be very easy. Unfortunately, it's not when it goes wrong.
And from my side, I suppose I just wanted to add, in terms of the employee experience, that's almost non-negotiable, so it applies across the board. And at the end of the day, the business it's an investment. So you want to make sure that you get the most for your money. So it's a value add from an employee experience, but also from a business investment point of view, with that kind of long-term future business objectives. So I think we mustn't kind of lose sight of this, because it is part of the equation.
Yeah. Great perspectives, thank you. So one more question to finish us off. If you could give us a crystal ball, what do you see or anticipate as any future trends for the different groups you're serving, and what could excite and inspire for the future?
There is a trend right now, because I think intern programs are being looked at, because I think companies are questioning whether they've got the right model or the right policy in place. So I definitely think that's something that we're going to see more of with that group of
interns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
I'm thinking in terms of policies and policy design and policy review, and I think a number of us mentioned this earlier. It's around making sure that they are truly inclusive.
Yeah.
And I think when you design those policies, you have to be doing it with a view of who am I excluding, in the context of AI, of course. So the crystal ball is definitely how will AI change this whole space, and how do we ensure that it enhances as opposed to hinders it, and we still have that human experience.
Yeah, and not have to make people ask for something that's
exactly
there, it's available to them.
Exactly. So it's that inclusivity
Exactly.
again.
Yeah. And Khadeeja, final thought from you?
I think technology will still be there. I think it's the whole AI, how it will enable us to make mobility or the whole relocation experience better. But I don't think the personal touch will go away, because it's not going to work one's not going to work without the other, I don't think.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you, everyone. I think we are at time. We're good. Great. Oh, I need to flip. Thank you so much.